The rain had been falling all night, a cold and merciless downpour that blurred the line between the earth and sky. The muddy road stretched endlessly through the mist, its silence broken only by the distant hum of thunder. Somewhere along that lonely stretch, a flicker of movement caught Ethan's eye, something pale, still, and human lying near the ditch. His heart pounded. He slammed on the brakes, his old pickup skidding slightly before stopping. He jumped out, his boots sinking into the wet soil, and ran toward the motionless figure. A woman, soaked, bruised, her clothes torn and covered in dirt. She wasn't moving. If you believe that kindness still has the power to change lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread, because this story will remind you why compassion still matters in a world that often forgets it. Ethan knelt beside her, his breath fogging in the cold air. He gently touched her neck, a pulse. Faint, but there. Her lips were trembling, her face streaked with mud and blood, her body twisted awkwardly as if she had tried to crawl but couldn't. Without thinking twice, he took off his jacket and wrapped it around her. "You're going to be okay," he whispered, even though he wasn't sure if she could hear him. He lifted her carefully, her limp body heavy with cold and pain, and carried her to his truck. Every step he took splashed mud, but he didn't care. He just knew he couldn't leave her there. Back in the truck, he turned the heat to full and sped toward the nearest hospital, miles away. His daughter, Lily, a bright-eyed 7-year-old, stirred awake from the back seat. "Daddy, what happened?" she asked, her voice soft and scared. Ethan didn't know what to say. He just glanced at her through the mirror and said, "We're helping someone, sweetheart." At the hospital, the doctors rushed the woman away. Ethan waited in the dimly lit corridor, dripping wet, his hands still shaking. Hours passed before a nurse came out. "She's stable," the nurse said. "Severe spinal trauma. It's too early to tell, but she might never walk again." Ethan nodded slowly. He didn't know her name, her story, or why she was there, but he knew he couldn't just walk away. He gave the hospital his number in case they needed anything and went home with a heavy heart. Life hadn't been kind to Ethan. After his wife, Claire, died in a car accident 3 years ago, he had been doing his best to raise Lily alone. He worked 2 jobs, construction during the day and dishwashing at night, just to keep a roof over their heads. Money was always short, but love never was. Lily was his world, his reason to keep going. Yet, as he lay awake that night, he couldn't shake the image of the woman's face, pale, broken, and strangely familiar. Days turned into weeks. The hospital called him often, the woman had no ID, no family came forward, and her recovery was slow. Ethan visited her every evening after work, bringing small things, flowers from the roadside, books he found at thrift stores, even Lily's drawings. She couldn't move her legs, but her eyes followed him with quiet gratitude. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Why are you helping me?" she asked one day, tears pooling in her eyes. Ethan smiled faintly. "Because someone once helped me when I had nothing left," he said, remembering the neighbor who had cared for him and Lily after Claire's death. Kindness keeps us alive. The more time he spent with her, the more he sensed something deeper, a strange connection he couldn't explain. She looked familiar, but he couldn't place her face. Her name, she said, was Anna. She had no memory of how she ended up on that road. The doctors called it trauma-induced amnesia. Ethan didn't press her for answers, he just focused on helping her heal, spending his little savings to buy her necessities and sometimes skipping his own meals to afford her medication. One evening, as autumn leaves began to fall, Ethan brought Lily to visit Anna. The hospital room felt brighter with Lily's laughter echoing around. Anna smiled more that day than she had in weeks. She reached out and held Lily's small hand. Something in her expression shifted, like recognition fighting to surface. Her eyes filled with tears, and she looked at Ethan with trembling lips. "Your daughter, she looks so much like someone I used to know," she murmured. Ethan's heart tightened, but he brushed it off with a gentle smile. A few days later, Ethan received a call from the hospital. Anna wanted to see him urgently. When he arrived, her eyes were wide and red-rimmed, her hand shaking as she clutched a faded photograph the staff had found in her belongings. "Ethan," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. This is you." She handed him the photograph, a picture of a young couple standing in front of an old farmhouse. The man was unmistakably Ethan. The woman beside him was Anna, smiling, radiant, and very much alive. Ethan froze. His mind raced. That photograph was from over a decade ago, back when he was in college. Anna was the woman he once loved, the one who had walked away without a word, leaving him broken. He had buried that chapter long ago, convinced she had moved on. I don't understand, he stammered. But Anna did. Her memories had returned, and with them, the truth. Years ago, when they were young and dreaming of a future together, Anna's wealthy parents had forbidden their relationship. They wanted her to marry into money, not love. Under immense pressure, she left Ethan, never telling him she was pregnant. She gave birth to a baby boy, but he was stillborn. The grief shattered her, and her family sent her abroad for treatment. When she returned, she learned that Ethan had married Claire and had a daughter. She never reached out again, believing fate had punished her enough. But the accident that left her paralyzed was the same stormy night she was driving to find him, to finally apologize. Ethan stood silent, the weight of the years crashing down on him. Anger, sorrow, disbelief, all collided in his chest. But when he looked into Anna's tearful eyes, he saw only pain and regret. "You saved me," she sobbed. "After everything I did to you, you saved me." Ethan's voice was low and steady. Maybe that's what life is, forgiving what we can't forget. Over the following months, Ethan helped Anna recover physically and emotionally. Lily grew attached to her, calling her Aunt Anna. Slowly, Anna began to regain strength in her arms, enough to hold a spoon, to draw, to write again. Ethan noticed the light returning to her eyes, a quiet resilience that mirrored his own. Though her legs remained paralyzed, she found purpose in small joys, reading to Lily, painting sunsets from her hospital window, and writing about her journey. When the hospital bills grew beyond what Ethan could afford, he started working nights again. One evening, Lily drew a picture of their small family, Ethan, herself, and Anna in a wheelchair, all holding hands. She gave it to Ethan and said, "Daddy, I think Mommy sent Anna to us so we wouldn't be lonely anymore." Tears filled Ethan's eyes as he hugged her tightly. Maybe, just maybe, Lily was right. Months later, Anna was discharged. Ethan converted a corner of their modest home into a space for her, a small desk, a bed by the window, flowers on the sill. Together, they built something fragile yet beautiful, a family born not of perfection but of forgiveness and healing. The scars of the past didn't vanish, but they became reminders of how far they had come. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that kindness can heal even the deepest wounds, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your support helps us share more true and inspiring stories that restore faith in humanity. Before you go, tell us in the comments, Speech Balloon, do you believe people deserve a second chance, no matter how much they've hurt you? As the sun set over the quiet countryside, Ethan stood by the window, watching Lily play in the yard while Anna painted beside him. Life hadn't turned out the way he once dreamed, but in that moment, surrounded by the warmth of love reborn from pain, he realized something profound. Sometimes, the people we're meant to meet are those we've already known, and lost, and forgiven. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is simply choosing to stay.